Today, we're going to jump into one of the most, fascinating chapters in the whole Bible, Leviticus 11. Now, I know, for some people, it might just look like a strange list of dietary rules. But when we really look closer, we find it's not so much about restrictions. It's about getting some profound, life-shaping wisdom straight from God. All right, let's dive in. And that really brings us to the biggest question of this whole chapter. Just stop and think about that for a second. The God who created every single living thing then turns around and gives his people a very specific menu. Why? Why would he do that? What's the real purpose behind saying one thing is clean and another is unclean? Well, that's the mystery we're going to solve together.
The first thing we've got to get is that these aren't just random, out-of-the-blue rules. God is a God of order, not of confusion. And what we find in Leviticus 11 is this really clear, almost elegant system. It's built on simple principles, and it was designed so that anybody could understand it and follow it.
Okay, so for land animals, check out how beautifully simple this is. God gives two clear things to look for. First, does it chew the cud? And second, does it have a divided or cloven hoof? Now, for an animal to be considered clean to eat, it has to do both. It's not one or the other. It has to be both. It's basically a simple two-point checklist. And this is just a perfect illustration of how that principle works, and it's an example taken right from the scripture. A pig, for instance, it has a divided hoof, so it checks box number 1, but it doesn't chew the cud. And because it only meets one of the two requirements, God says it's unclean. See? The system is perfectly clear. There's no gray area. So now let's move from the land into the water, and you'll see God applies the same kind of elegant two-part system. For any creature that lives in the sea or a river or a lake, to be considered clean, it has to have both fins and scales. So if it's missing one of those, think of something like a catfish or shrimp, it falls into that unclean category. Again, it's a simple rule you can see with your own eyes. But the system changes a little bit for other categories of animals. When we start talking about flying creatures and some others, instead of giving a simple two-part rule, God just gives a direct list. He doesn't lay out a general principle. He gets very, very specific about what his people should not eat. And wow, what a list it is. This is just a small sample, but you start to see a pattern pretty quickly, don't you? A lot of these are birds of prey, or they're scavengers, creatures that eat dead things and blood. God is drawing a really clear line here. He names them one by one, leaving absolutely no room for doubt. And God's system is just so comprehensive. It goes all the way down to what the scripture calls creeping things. Most swarming insects are declared unclean. But even here, God makes a very specific exception for those that have jointed legs they use for leaping, like locusts, crickets, and certain kinds of grasshoppers. The level of detail is just remarkable. So all of this brings us right back to our big question. We've seen the system, we've seen the principles, the specific lists, but why? Why does any of this matter to God? This is clearly about more than just a diet. It has to be about something much, much deeper. And the answer, the key that unlocks the whole thing, is found right near the end of the chapter. And here it is. This is the ultimate reason. This isn't mainly about health or hygiene, even though those might be good side effects. The most important point, the whole reason for all of this, is holiness. God tells his people, "You shall be holy, for I am holy." This is this profound invitation to reflect the very character of God himself. But what does that word holy actually mean? Well, at its root, the word means to be set apart. It means being different from everything and everyone around you. And not just for the sake of being different, but because you are consecrated, you're dedicated to a specific divine purpose. It means you belong to God. And that right there is the absolute genius of these dietary laws. God wasn't just handing them a rule book. He was giving them a tool. He was weaving a constant daily reminder of their unique identity right into the fabric of their lives. 3 times a day, every single time they sat down for a meal. Just imagine what this was like in practice. An Israelite goes to the market, or maybe they're getting ready to hunt. They see an animal, and they have to stop and think, okay, what did God say about this? They have to remember the principles, figure out if it's clean or unclean, and then make a conscious choice to obey. That simple act of choosing what to eat became this powerful act of faith, this constant physical reminder, I am different. I belong to the Lord. So when you boil it all down, This was never just about what was on the plate. It was about what was in the heart. Every single meal was a tangible way to remember their special covenant with the living God. It was a physical expression of a spiritual reality. We are God's people, and we are called to be set apart for Him.
Now, these specific food laws were for ancient Israel under the Old Covenant, but that principle behind them, that powerful call to be holy, to be set apart for God, that is absolutely timeless. And that leaves us with a really profound question to think about. In our own lives, right now, today, what does it mean to live a life that is truly and joyfully set apart for God?